Why do some men chase, while others disappear the moment you start caring? Why does it feel like the more you give, the less they value it? And why does the woman who seems indifferent end up being the one he can't stop thinking about? The answer isn't in playing games or withholding love, it's in understanding something far deeper, something that lives in the core of the masculine psyche. He doesn't want comfort, he wants a challenge. Carl Jung once said that within every man lives both the persona, the image he shows the world, and the animus, the hidden internal force of drive, power, and identity. And when a man encounters a woman who doesn't need him but chooses herself first, something ancient is triggered inside him. Not confusion, not fear, purpose. He feels the urge not to possess, but to prove. Because masculinity in its healthiest form isn't about domination, it's about rising. But here's the painful truth. When you hand over your energy too easily, when you explain, pursue, make excuses, or overextend, you don't activate his depth, you disarm it. And what could have been a journey of mutual becoming turns into emotional convenience. He doesn't walk away because you weren't enough. He walks away because he never had to become enough for you. This is the secret no one dares to say. Masculine energy doesn't grow in ease. It grows in resistance, in needing to earn respect, in facing the mirror of a woman who knows her worth and doesn't dilute it to avoid being alone. You are not the test, you are the teacher. And your silence, your standards, your self-respect. They're the invitation he either rises to meet or walks away from, and both are answers. So if he's disappearing, maybe it's not because you're too much. Maybe it's because you stopped being the challenge he didn't even know he needed. And the moment you remember that your love is not a reward, it's a reflection of who he's willing to become, is the moment everything changes. Because only one kind of man will stay, the one who is ready to rise. He might not say it out loud. He might not even know it himself. But deep in the architecture of every man's psyche lives one undeniable truth. He is built to prove himself, not to the world, not to society, to you, and more precisely, to the part of you that doesn't need him but demands truth. Evolution didn't design the masculine energy to be passive. It was never meant to float. It was made to hunt, to protect, to pursue with purpose. When a man sees a mountain, he climbs it. When he sees fire, he tests its heat. And when he sees a woman who knows her own worth, who doesn't shrink, beg, or over-explain, he doesn't retreat. He locks in. Because finally, he feels something real, something worth chasing. Carl Jung wrote that what we project onto others is a reflection of what we have yet to integrate within ourselves. And in the presence of a woman who does not lower herself to be chosen, a man either steps into his higher self or he runs from the shadow of who he still is. It's not rejection he fears, it's irrelevance. Because for the masculine, earning is sacred. It gives him meaning. That's why when you give too much too soon, your time, your energy, your body, your loyalty without demand, you may feel generous. But what he experiences is lack of value. It doesn't ignite his instinct to pursue. It extinguishes it. Because what comes easily doesn't feel precious. It feels replaceable. Let that settle. What is too easily available rarely awakens the warrior. The masculine doesn't fall in love with comfort. He falls in love with the process of becoming worthy. And your job is not to coach him through it. It's to stand in your power and let him rise or reveal that he won't. A man doesn't become loyal because he's afraid of losing you. He becomes loyal because he sees himself more clearly in your reflection. And that's what a real challenge is. Not manipulation, not silence games, but holding such a strong frequency of self-worth that he has to either grow to meet you or stay behind and wonder forever what kind of man he could have become if he had tried. Let's talk about the part no one likes to admit. Not because it's shameful, but because it's quietly heartbreaking. So many women who are full of love, strength, and beautiful intention fall into patterns that slowly strip away their own power. And the saddest part? They don't even realize they're doing it. It starts innocently. You text first because you don't want to play games. You explain how you feel again because maybe he didn't understand the first time. You forgive before there's an apology. You show up emotionally, physically, spiritually, thinking love will teach him how to meet you. But it doesn't. It just teaches him he doesn't have to. Overgiving, over-explaining, emotional chasing. These are not acts of love. They're acts of fear, fear of being misunderstood, abandoned, or not enough. And while they come from a good place, they backfire silently. Because instead of inspiring him to rise, they allow him to rest. Not rest as in peace, rest as in comfort. And nothing kills masculine motivation faster than feeling like there's nothing to reach for. He's not bad, he's not broken, he's just not required to become anything. And so he doesn't. What you thought was connection turns into convenience. What you believed was openness becomes availability. And what was meant to be an exchange of energy turns into an emotional imbalance that drains you and bores him. Slowly, quietly, fatally. This isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility. Because no man is going to say, "Hey, I stopped respecting you the moment you stopped requiring something of me." He won't even realize it. He'll just slowly fade. Not because you're too much, but because you forgot who you were in the effort to be chosen. This is self-sabotage dressed as sincerity. Not because your love was wrong, but because your strategy didn't protect it. And this isn't about shame. This is about insight. It's about finally understanding that giving all of you to someone who hasn't earned it isn't generosity. It's emotional bankruptcy. You don't inspire devotion by proving your value. You inspire it by embodying it. Somewhere along the way, challenge became a dirty word. People started confusing it with manipulation, power plays, or calculated distance. But let's be very clear, challenging a man doesn't mean tricking him. It means refusing to collapse just to keep him comfortable. A challenge, in its purest form, is the refusal to dim your truth for anyone. It's the strength to hold your own emotional gravity when everything inside you wants to fold. It's not silence as punishment, it's stillness as power. It's not pulling away to cause pain, it's stepping back because you won't lead the dance he's supposed to initiate. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And when you hold your standards without apology, when you require depth, honesty, consistency, what you're really doing is offering him the chance to become, to stop coasting, to stop hiding behind the mask of casual, and rise into something real. Because masculine energy doesn't thrive in comfort, it awakens in the presence of resistance with purpose. That doesn't mean being difficult, it means being anchored, grounded in such unshakable self-worth that your presence alone demands more. Not with threats, not with ultimatums, but with expectation. Think about it. Do flowers bloom in a field that's too easy to reach? Or do they grow where the climb is steep, the air thin, the reward breathtaking? The women who are unforgettable aren't the ones who make him feel safe in his stagnancy. They're the ones who require him to move toward truth, toward clarity, toward her. And if you mistake that kind of challenge for a game, you'll miss the point entirely. Because the moment you start performing, strategizing, or pretending to care less than you do, you're not challenging him, you're abandoning yourself. And he'll feel it. Real challenge isn't external. It's internal. It's the unwavering frequency of a woman who knows what she deserves and won't abandon that just to be wanted. A man who's ready won't run from that challenge. He'll lean into it. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. So no, it's not about games. It's about growth. His, yours. Together or apart. Words are easy. They can be sweet, seductive, convincing. But energy? Energy never lies. You can say you're fine when you're not. Say you have standards when you keep breaking them. Say you're confident, while your soul quietly whispers you're afraid to be alone. And he may not be able to explain it, but he'll feel it every time. A woman's energy is her most powerful language. It tells the truth long before her mouth does. It announces her boundaries without a sound. It radiates her self-respect or exposes her insecurity. And the masculine reads that instinctively. Not always consciously, but undeniably. This is why you don't attract who you want, you attract who matches the frequency you're living in. Carl Jung said, "What you resist not only persists, but grows in power. If you resist speaking your truth, it shows in your nervousness. If you avoid holding your standard, it echoes in your eyes. The parts of you that are still waiting to be chosen speak the loudest even when you say nothing." And here's the shift. He doesn't respond to what you say. He responds to what you embody. If your words say, "I don't accept breadcrumbs," but your energy says, "Please don't leave," he'll respond to the energy every single time. That's why holding your standard isn't something you declare, it's something you become. You don't set boundaries with your mouth, you set them with your nervous system, with your presence, with your silence when he tests the line, and you don't flinch, don't beg, don't justify. You just step back and let the truth speak for itself. You can't fake frequency, and when you try to, when you pretend to be detached while dying for a text back, you send mixed signals and he picks up on all of them. The solution isn't to chase, it's to clean up your energy. Align what you expect with what you live, because a woman in energetic integrity doesn't need to demand respect, she invokes it. So if you want him to show up like a man, don't beg, explain, or perform. Just become the version of yourself that would only accept the real thing. He'll feel the shift. And what you stop tolerating stops showing up. It's easy to be impressive once. Anyone can put on a show, send the good morning texts, say the right things, make the first few dates feel like magic. But what happens when the spark fades and reality starts whispering, "Now prove it"? That's when the first test arrives. Will he remain consistent when it's no longer convenient? Masculine charm is cheap. Persistence, however, is sacred. Because a man who is rooted in his masculine energy doesn't just appear, he remains. Not because it's always easy, but because your presence pulls something honorable out of him. A man who truly wants to rise in your world doesn't need to be entertained. He needs to be challenged to stay. And that challenge isn't a game, it's your standard. It's how you respond when the attention starts to fade, when his effort slows. Do you fill in the silence, initiate to keep things alive, try harder so he doesn't forget you? Or do you watch carefully, calmly, knowing that charm without follow-through is just decoration? A real man, a grounded, integrated man, isn't dazzled by how easy it is to win you over. He's drawn to what it takes to keep you, because what doesn't require consistency doesn't require character. And he knows that. Deep down, he knows the difference between being liked and being needed. The former is fleeting, the latter demands presence. Don't confuse momentary chemistry with meaningful intention. Many men can create a spark, few can sustain a flame. And the ones who can, they don't just say things, they show up again and again. Without being asked, without being tested, without being reminded of what you deserve, because he already knows it. And more importantly, he feels honored to meet it. Your job isn't to keep the spark alive. It's to pay attention to whether he does. Not with flowers, not with flattery, but with consistency. That's where the real truth lives. So watch not how he begins, but how he maintains. That's where the masculine reveals who he truly is, not in the charm of the entrance, but in the integrity of his presence when the spotlight fades. There's a silence inside every man that most never talk about. A quiet, yawning space of not enoughness, of questions without answers, of purpose still undefined. And many men, instead of facing it, run from it. Not toward danger, but toward distraction, and more often than not, that distraction is you. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the unacknowledged part of the self, the hidden fears, wounds, and needs buried beneath persona. And for many men, that shadow includes the ache of disconnection from their own soul. Instead of confronting it, they seek a woman to soothe it. Not because they don't feel anything, but because they don't know how to feel it alone. That's why some men are drawn to strong, radiant, grounded women, not because they're ready, but because they're starving. Your presence offers relief. Your love feels like medicine. Your attention becomes anesthesia. But here's the danger. If you soothe a man who hasn't met his own emptiness, he'll eventually resent you for doing the very thing he demanded, because you will have become his escape, not his mirror. When you challenge a man, you don't punish him. You refuse to be his distraction. You reflect him back to himself. That's what real feminine energy does. It doesn't fix, it reveals. It says, I won't fill what you won't face. I won't carry what you won't claim, and I won't give what you haven't earned. Some men will run from that. Others will awaken. When you stop softening the world for him, he has no choice but to either meet himself or walk away. And either path is a gift. Because love that depends on your silence, your compromise, your emotional labor is not love, it's dependence in disguise. Don't become the balm for a wound he refuses to treat. Don't soothe the emptiness he won't speak about. He must meet his own shadow, not mask it with your kindness. You are not the cure for his chaos. You are the mirror in which he sees whether he's ready to become a man or not. And that reflection is the real challenge. It's not always about saying no. Sometimes the most powerful boundary is silence. Sometimes it's not replying right away, not explaining yourself, not opening your heart to someone who hasn't proven they can hold it. This isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Because emotional availability should never be a default, it should be earned. There's a dangerous belief many women carry, that if they just give more love, more patience, more reassurance, they'll finally feel safe, seen, chosen. But that's not how it works. What you give away too freely stops being valued. What's offered without being earned often becomes invisible. Let me tell you something that might sting. Many men aren't walking away because you were too much. They're walking away because they never had to show up. You filled the silence. You reassured them. You made them the sun in a universe they hadn't proven they deserved to orbit. But something changes when a woman stops chasing with her heart. I once knew a woman who radiated calm. Men were drawn to her. But she never rushed to respond. She never offered compliments just to be polite. She never shared her deepest thoughts with a man who hadn't shown emotional depth first. She didn't do this to be cold. She did it to be safe. Her validation meant something because it was rare. Her love wasn't performative, it was protective of herself. Another woman I knew stopped replying to late-night WID texts after years of being the fallback option. She didn't block him, didn't lash out. She just stopped being emotionally available for crumbs. He noticed. Of course he did, because when a woman stops leaking her energy, the whole dynamic shifts. This is the truth. A man who hasn't earned your vulnerability doesn't deserve your attention. Not yet. And that doesn't mean you're punishing him. It means you're preserving you. Your energy is sacred. Your heart is not a self-help project for someone else's growth. When you stop giving out your softness like a free sample, the right man will do what others wouldn't, tries to meet it, and when he does, your boundaries won't repel him. They'll guide him. Not to control him, but to reveal if he's truly capable of loving you the way you deserve, with presence, with respect, with soul. We're taught that silence means distance, that if you're quiet, he'll forget you, that if you don't explain yourself, he'll get confused. But the truth is, for the masculine, silence isn't rejection, it's a mirror, a powerful one. And the woman who learns to hold her silence, not as punishment but as presence, becomes unforgettable. One of the greatest challenges you can ever offer a man is this: not reacting, not chasing clarity, not filling the space with reassurance, just being still, just letting the moment breathe. Because here's what most don't realize when a woman speaks. He hears her words. But when she goes silent, he hears himself. And that's when something real begins to stir inside him. Doubt, curiosity, drive, questions, desire. Why? Because mystery is the birthplace of movement, and masculine energy moves toward what it doesn't fully understand. Carl Jung said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order, and your silence, if it's anchored in truth, creates that beautiful kind of chaos, the kind that reveals hidden order, the kind that shows him who he is when he's not being guided or managed." This doesn't mean ghosting. It doesn't mean playing hard to get. It means refusing to overfunction in an emotional space where he should be learning how to show up. It means letting your absence teach, not threaten. Because when a woman detaches from needing to be understood, She becomes a force, not cold, not angry, just centered. And if he's real, that stillness won't push him away. It will pull him deeper. He'll start to notice the lack of your presence the way a room notices when the light shifts. It won't be loud, but it will be impossible to ignore. Because silence in a woman who knows her worth is never emptiness. It's invitation, the kind that doesn't beg or chase or explain. The kind that whispers, if you want access to me, you'll have to find your way without a map. A man can't meet a standard you never set, and he won't grow toward a woman who doesn't require anything of him. But here's the secret that turns desire into devotion. The moment you set the standard, you must also step back. Because love doesn't move through pressure, it moves through purpose. Women often believe that if they don't remind him of what they need, if they don't clarify, restate, or reframe, they'll forget. He won't rise. But what actually happens is the opposite. The more you repeat the standard, the more it becomes background noise, and eventually it loses its power. Setting a standard is not about volume, it's about frequency. You say it once with clarity, you show it once with your energy, and then you let your absence become the accountability. If you say, I don't do casual, and still entertain breadcrumbs, your energy speaks louder than your boundary. If you say, I need consistency, but keep forgiving flakiness, you're not holding a standard, you're offering suggestions. And men don't rise for suggestions, they rise for requirements. Once the standard is clear, don't explain, don't chase, don't negotiate. Hold it, and let him decide who he is. Because here's what you must understand. Masculine energy needs space to choose. Not because he's unsure, but because the choice has to come from within. When you chase, you rob him of the opportunity to become. When you explain too much, you drown out his own inner voice, and when you overfunction, you interrupt his path to identity. Carl Jung believed that identity isn't found, it's forged, and men forge themselves in the presence of women who won't shrink to accommodate them, who love, yes, but also leave room for the man to find his own way. So give him that room, set the expectation with calm certainty, then step back, not with fear, but with knowing. If he rises, it will be real. If he doesn't, it never would have lasted. You don't create devotion by standing over him. You create it by standing in yourself and letting him walk the path you no longer need to pave. If you really want to know who a man is, challenge him, not with games, not with manipulation, with truth, with presence, with boundaries that don't bend when he pushes. Because when a man feels tested, when his access to you is no longer automatic, something ancient inside him activates or collapses. That's the moment when the illusion fades. That's when the real him steps forward. Some rise, they lean in, they listen, they adapt. Not because they're afraid of losing you, but because they recognize you, your value, your rarity, your standard. Others avoid. They disappear into distraction, pretend nothing happened, ghost and resurface as if silence erased the gap. And then there are those who blame. They twist your needs into accusations, call you too much, too intense, too hard to love. But what they're really saying is, you didn't let me stay lazy. Carl Jung believed that resistance reveals character, not because it's meant to punish, but because it strips away performance. When a man faces a boundary he didn't expect, he no longer has space to pretend. He's left with only two choices, grow or retreat, and whatever he chooses, you have your answer. But here's the key. Observe without rescuing. Don't soften your edge because his discomfort makes you ache. Don't fill in the silence just to keep the connection alive. Let him feel what distance feels like when it's earned. Not to hurt him, but to let the truth speak. Because if you save him from the discomfort, you also save him from the very process that could make him worthy of you. A real man won't crumble under your truth. He'll calibrate to meet it. And the ones who walk away were never staying for the right reasons anyway. They were staying for access, not intimacy. So don't chase clarity. Don't apologize for the impact of your standards. Just watch. Because when he feels tested, he'll show you everything: his maturity, his integrity, and most of all, his willingness to become. Here's a paradox most women never learn to trust. The more a man has to earn your energy, the more he values it. And the more he values it, the more he seeks to protect it. Not because you forced him to, but because he sees it as sacred, because you never handed it over for free. This is the foundation of healthy masculine devotion. Not convenience, not comfort, respect. You can't inspire this by over-giving. You can't manufacture it with charm. It begins the moment you stop performing and start holding. The moment you stop trying to be chosen and start choosing yourself. That's when his instincts shift. That's when his masculinity stops posturing and starts leading. A man can smell the difference between a woman who's afraid to lose him and one who knows she'll be fine without him. And that difference, that frequency, it commands respect, not the kind you ask for. The kind he feels viscerally, unshakably. Because your energy no longer feeds his ego, it calls his soul. Carl Jung taught that wholeness is the integration of opposites, and for a man to become whole, he must face the parts of himself that used women for validation and evolve into someone who honors what is rare. That shift doesn't happen when everything is easy. It happens when a woman requires more and doesn't blink while he decides if he can give it. That's the loop. Respect creates value, value creates devotion, devotion creates protection, and protection deepens respect. But it begins with you, with how you treat your time, your body, your attention. Do you offer it freely to those who haven't earned it? Do you negotiate your needs just to avoid conflict? Do you settle for being admired instead of being respected? Or do you sit in your wholeness and say, if you want access to this, show me you're worthy? A man who feels your energy as earned, not entitled, will protect it with the weight of his character, not with empty promises, but with consistency, effort, and presence. Because what a man respects, he does not risk losing. Not every man deserves to be challenged. Let that land. Not every man is ready to rise. Not every man is meant to be tested. Some men wear their wounds like weapons, and if you're not careful, they will drag you into battles you were never meant to fight. Emotional unavailability isn't a puzzle to solve, it's a wall to walk away from. Narcissism isn't a trait to soften, it's a warning. Addiction to chaos, to substances, to attention, these are not signs of a man waiting to be awakened. They are signs of a man who hasn't chosen to awaken himself. And if you challenge him, he won't rise. He'll weaponize the challenge. He'll turn it into a game, a conquest, a test of how much you'll bend, break, or bleed to prove you're enough. Carl Jung spoke often of the danger of projection, of confusing potential with reality. And many women fall in love with potential, with who he could be, with what he says when he's soft, when he's scared, when he shows flickers of soul between episodes of withdrawal and blame. But here's the truth. If he hasn't faced his own shadow, he will use your love to avoid it. That's not challenge, that's martyrdom. You're not here to fix a wounded ego. You're not here to pour your healing into someone who refuses to hold it. You're not here to stay loyal to someone who punishes you for your light. That's not growth. That's self-abandonment dressed up as devotion. The right kind of challenge awakens him. The wrong kind empties you. So learn to discern. If your standards make him violent, defensive, or manipulative, that's not resistance, it's regression. If your silence provokes cruelty instead of clarity, that's not a test, it's a trauma loop. And if your boundary makes him punish you instead of respect you, walk away. Because the woman who knows her worth doesn't offer herself to brokenness pretending to be depth. She offers herself only to those capable of carrying what she holds. You are not the rehab center for men who refuse to grow. You are the mirror for the man who's ready to see who he really is and who he's still becoming. She doesn't flatter. She doesn't chase. She doesn't apologize for needing more. She doesn't lower her frequency to be accessible. And yet she is unforgettable. Not because she tries to be, but because she requires something from him that most women don't, his becoming. She is not hard to get. She's hard to keep unless he's real. This is the woman who doesn't just attract the masculine. She awakens it. not by demanding attention, but by commanding respect through her presence alone. Her gaze says, "I see through you." Her silence says, "I won't settle." Her stillness says, "This is not a space for boys in grown man bodies." Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, and that's what she demands without words. For him to see himself, all of himself. Not just the curated mask he offers to the world, but the shadow he hides when no one is watching. She doesn't make him comfortable, she makes him conscious. He feels it the moment he meets her. The urge to impress collides with the instinct to become. He knows charm won't be enough, casual won't work, inconsistency will cost him. Because she's not looking for entertainment, she's looking for alignment. She doesn't want a man to orbit her like a satellite seeking validation. She wants a man to stand beside her, rooted, clear, and sovereign. She doesn't want to be needed, she wants to be respected. And she doesn't beg for devotion, she evokes it. He rises not because she instructs him, but because in her presence, anything less than his highest self feels unbearable. That's what makes her dangerous, not her beauty, not her independence. Her standard, her refusal to be anything less than fully expressed, her insistence on not trading her peace for connection. And if he's not ready, he'll retreat. He'll say she's too much, that she's intimidating, that she's not like the others. But if he is ready, if something deep in his soul has been waiting for someone who demands his greatness without saying a word, he will rise. Not to win her, to deserve her. Because the woman who doesn't chase, doesn't settle, doesn't break, she becomes the fire that forges the man he was always meant to be. If he's real, he'll rise. If he's not, he'll retreat. And both outcomes are gifts. Because the point was never to convince him, fix him, or hold his hand while he figures it out. The point was to stand in your truth so fully that only the man with enough courage, clarity, and character to match it could stay. You are not here to complete anyone. You are here to awaken the man who's already in the process of becoming. The one who doesn't need saving but who has been waiting for a mirror strong enough to show him what he's capable of. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That truth is for him, but it starts with you. Because when a woman stops trying to be chosen and starts choosing herself, everything changes. Her energy shifts, her standards lock in, her presence stops attracting boys and starts activating kings. That's the secret. Not manipulation, not silence as punishment, not fake independence. Real power, real stillness, real boundaries. The kind that says, you can come close, but only if you arrive as yourself, fully, without the mask, without the games, without the need to be mothered, managed, or mended. Because you've done the work. You've held yourself through the loneliness, through the waiting, through the ache of almost love. You've chosen growth over distraction, solitude over chaos, depth over attention. And now, you're not asking for a man to complete you, you're daring one to meet you. Most won't. That's the reality. They'll fold under the pressure of your standard. They'll label your wholeness as intimidation. They'll retreat not because you were wrong, but because they weren't ready. But one will. And when he does, you won't have to teach him how to show up. He'll already be on the way. Because a man who's truly ready doesn't wait to be asked, decides. So, let him rise or let him go. Don't shrink, don't chase, don't doubt. You are not a test. You are the threshold. And the ones who are meant to walk through it will never ask you to lower it first. This story was intense. But this story on the right-hand side is even more insane.